All right, traders, welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting this Monday. Why was I about to say January? This is Monday, September 28th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, folks. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. Great to see the usual suspects in tow live inside our trading room. Chuck, Pat, Donnie, Bonnie. That was a nice tongue twister there. Greg, Dale as well, loud and clear. Perfect. Great to see you all. Phil joining us as well. Stefan and Linda. Perfect. All right. So, and as well for anybody tuning in across social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, as always, I like to say, markets have been pretty flat today, right? We've been seeing a pretty flat market at least after the open. Ended up making a little bit of a pop, then a higher low and a push up higher heading into the mid to late morning, but you can see just on the bottom of my chart there, the INDU symbol, the Dow Industrial, just super flat. Although it's near the highs, I mean, it's been holding strong. I mean, that's nice to see at least. But with that in mind, things have been pretty flat across the board. This PEC trade, though, has been pushing up pretty nicely. So, for right now, I'll copy and paste the news on this PEC trade, PECK. This was actually news back from, I think, even like Wednesday of last week. They were up big last week, a pump and dump on a few occasions. I'll jump to the daily chart in just a moment, but PEC shares up, and this was just back from, I think, early last week, but in sympathy with Sunworks, that's SUNW, one of the crazy movers that we saw from last week too. PECco and Sunworks are pending the closing of their merger agreement. So that was the news that came out last week. Once again on PEC, we ended up seeing a pump and dump on Wednesday. I think Thursday here as well, same thing. Look at the daily chart here. It opened back on Wednesday at 346, moved up to a high of 539, and then dumped all the way back down to 341. It actually closed lower than it even opened up. So total pump and dump back on Wednesday. Then Thursday, I mean, it dumped back down pretty sharply, right, from where it topped off from. Same move for the most part, dropped off much lower back on Friday, and here we are right now. So this thing's been around the block, right? So heading into the afternoon, I'm going to put this on our list given the recent activity, the recent volume. Keep in mind, though, I mean, needless to be said, I feel, but it's more of a level 4 to 5 stock given the spread, liquidity. I mean, steady trend just up until right now. It was building up pretty nicely off the lows here, but you could see it ended up holding off what appears to be 720 and then just broke lower for right now. So, it has some nasty shakes. This PEC trade will at least put on our list here for the meantime. All right. But I got to say, though, guys, for a Monday, I had a pretty big list heading into a Monday morning. I wasn't expecting a whole lot as far as, trade after trade, but we ended up catching a few big winners. So let's recap those that we ended up catching, most of them right from the list. But from there, what we'll do is look to rebuild up the list for the afternoon. So Space, SPCE, I think the news out on this was like price upgrade from Bank of America, if I'm not mistaken. Ended up seeing a big pre-market push. My Benzinga Pro is kind of slacking on me early on today, guys. So now that I have it up, I'll be able to do a little copy and paste here. Yeah, Bank of America Securities initiated coverage on the stock with a buy rating and a $35 price target, a lot more than I thought. I thought it was like 23. So I'm just going to copy and paste once again for all of us tuning in live, trading room and on social media. But yeah, I mean, Space, it's a stock that we're pretty familiar with. We've seen this stock. I mean, not necessarily off the IPO like I thought from the morning meeting, but it was back from the end of 2019, early 2020. For the entire year, we've been following this stock on and off. Especially off of news like this. So we ended up seeing a big push going into the market open. Took a little bit to get the real push higher going into the mid-morning there, but once it broke out over 19, ended up pushing up pretty nicely. So high of the day right now, 2035, still holding pretty strong. Perhaps with a healthy market, this could also, push up higher heading into the afternoon. So right away, I don't mind putting Space back on our list here too. It also is shortable, so if it craps out the other way, if it tanks for any measure, we'll be able to catch it. And with that in mind, really, actually, how about this? We'll talk more about this in our Traders Talk workshop tomorrow for all of us here inside our live trading room. But I ended up taking a short on this trade earlier today, and I ended up reversing as soon as it made the pop over 19 here. So it ended up breaking over and under 19. It was right here, one of these two bars. I ended up shorting at 1898. Right around 9:50, 10 o'clock, perhaps you would see the volume wane off. This would begin to kind of pull back a bit further. It dropped by another few cents, but it shot right back up as fast as it had dropped. So, when I see that, that's a critical point in terms of the stock's move. So not only did I get out, I took a 2-cent loss, but I even reversed my position from there. So I ended up jumping in long from 19 within a click of a button. From there, squeezed up to 1950. And I mean, I left a lot on the table with that run too. So goes to show how strong a stock like Space is heading into this afternoon even. All right. From John K here inside the trading room. He's or from YouTube, I'm sorry, on YouTube Live, asking about Sun W. I'll take a look at that for right now, John. We ended up catching it more so going into the mid-morning. You can see the big pop here. Going into the morning, I wasn't as keen. I mean, we had these on our list, going into the morning, at least Sun W. Ended up kind of popping at first, but then making the big ugly shake. Volume died off from there. So, I saw it make the push up, but as soon as I saw it break down here, I personally moved on. Once it made the pop here, unfortunately, I wasn't there to catch it, but a lot of us inside our trading room were. For where it is right now, I mean, it looks pretty interesting, obviously, pushing right back up right now. Resistance on the ask, I would assume for there to be a lot. I mean, you could see at 286, a 41,000 share order, 294, 46, a couple of funky price levels here. 294, 46,000 plus share order on the ask. You would assume for there to be major resistance off of 3. Let's see. 299. I saw a 3, like a 35,000 share. Yeah, he's popping in and out right now. All right. Well, it's a good call right now, John. I mean, certainly. Hopefully there's more left to this for me to take. So this Sun W, I guess we'll be putting on our list heading into this afternoon as well. All right, cool. All right, so Space we did pretty well on. I want to jump to Sorrento, SRNE, and this was one that we ended up catching during the middle of the meeting. I mean, it popped pretty much right as I first started, but ended up pushing up a little bit higher even after as well. More so than anything, guys, on this trade, the entry was off of 10. I ended up making a big shake on the way back down at first, but even from there, pushed back up through 10, pushed up nicely up towards 1035-ish. So that was the first setup, the first trade on this run. And then from here, once it pulled back under and over 10, the SRNE, it doesn't look like the best chart out there, but news came out from pre-market. I think the news, if I can remember off the top of my head, it had to do with osteoarthritis and knee pain and something. It was like a phase trial meeting primary endpoint. Here we go. Copy and paste from Benzinga Pro right now. That's exactly it. So I'll do the same thing. All right, but yeah, I mean, for right now, SRNE, it's a nice level 1 to 2 stock. It's not too difficult to interpret the big levels. So for the afternoon, I wouldn't mind putting this back on our list. I want to jump through the rest of them though first. Just mentioning that this was at least one from the morning that we did pretty well on too. All right. What else did we end up catching here, guys? I feel like it's been like a marathon day. It was like one stock after another. The INO was a big squeeze up, ended up running up a lot higher than I thought it was going to run. So we'll talk about this here too. The INO trade, we were talking more about 50-cent levels and whole numbers. Along with that, my line that I have here, I told you guys during the morning meeting to watch out for this like 1180-ish, 1177 smart money print price from the drop off. Look what ended up holding as support. Dropped down pretty nicely, bounced directly off the low here, 1181 by a penny, and pushed back up. That's what can make a nice bounce point, especially, you could see it's easy to say here, but going into the market open, ended up pushing up pretty nicely as the shorts covered, probably took some profits. Volume died off, this died off in trend, and then at least going into the mid-morning, once it rebroke above 12, from there made the bigger squeeze up. I figured this would get up to 1250, but to see this run all the way up to near 14, pretty fascinating move there, at least, right? So ended up dying off from there for as much as it ran up. You'd figure it's not going to fill the gap entirely. Ended up pulling back down and going into the afternoon, unless if you could short it, I'm not as interested in this trade, at least for right now. I mean, I feel like it's just kind of exhausted for as much as it dropped off, moved back up, pulled back down, made that mini bounce. And yeah, I mean, it'll probably make the bounce off 12, maybe break below it once again, and then another squeeze back up. But for right now, I'm going to keep this on the sidelines for right now, guys, the INO trade. We'll come back to this probably tomorrow and probably all this week, I'd imagine. All right, so Jerry's saying the KNDI trades up close to $1. I saw that before. I stepped away from the trading room at least for a little bit. I was in these one-on-one coaching sessions. So I know that Rich had it up for a little while. Otherwise, yeah, like you're saying, Jerry, pretty slow. Now, my reasoning for that, or my my rationale behind that, and I'm only speaking for myself here, of course. There could be a hell of a lot more to it than this, right? But typically before a lot of these big events, whether it be within our economy, whether it be within just the elections coming up, like an FOMC meeting, we typically see a lot of hesitation before that announcement. Well, here in the case of this week, we have the presidential debate, right? That's tomorrow night. So we might happen to see more of a stagnant market heading into the debates, just to kind of see, what Biden's going to say, what Trump's going to say. We're not going to talk about that here, of course, but that could be the reason as to why we're seeing more of a flat market heading into today. Holding still strong near the highs, so if they end up breaking higher, perhaps some sideless stocks would be, some good plays. Check out the airlines, like Norman's calling out here pretty quickly. American Airlines, yeah, nice slow, steady move up, Norman. I didn't really look at the airlines as much myself, but they all seem to have moved in unison. Pretty much the entire sector, right? ETF, JETS, Jets, ended up pushing up pretty nicely. So you got to figure everything else would. Could be good to keep on the side list, perhaps. I think for right now, what we'll do is just go from top to bottom. So far, guys, we have the PEC trade, Space, and then Sun W on our list heading into the afternoon. So not too bad of a start. This PLL, this was on our list, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, one of the couple of like lithium stocks. There was some news with this company in affiliation with Tesla with lithium-based battery, I think. So this company and one more ended up making a bit of a squeeze up, as you could see. Is this all-time highs on PLL? Wow, that's pretty interesting. So I reckon all-time highs for this trade, right? Yeah. All right, cool. So with there being all-time highs, and there's no historical ceiling to work off of aside from obviously what you see now on the 1-minute chart. I'm not going to put this on our list for right now. The spread is too big. The order book is too, scarce, I'd say. Too tiny orders, too spread out. It ended up making its big move from earlier on this afternoon, so I wouldn't expect for it to make a secondary move anyway. Good stock to keep on your side list is more of a level 5 trade for this week. Again, especially with the all-time highs, but it already made its run up for this afternoon. All right. Well, I'll tell you one that I was wrong on. Not to say wrong, but it's this. Well, I wouldn't have expected it to make this move, right? The OXBR, but it ended up making its pop a little bit sooner than I thought it was going to make its pop. So OXBR news came out on this in pre-market. For as much as it pumped up at 5, 6 in the morning, dumped all the way back down here in pre-market. So anytime you happen to see that, you would expect for the stock to not do as much going into the first 30 minutes, first 45 minutes in the morning. Perhaps from there, breakout going into the late morning, early afternoon. That's what we saw on a few of these trades going into last week. Well, I'll tell you, this OXBR ended up pushing up pretty much right out the get-go. Ended up making the big breakout over 2, and as you could see, the rest was history. So, for as many times as this got halted on the way up, and I mean, for myself, after the second halt, I ended up staying away. I mean, I figured there was a chance it could make this type of, parabolic move, but for as much as this gets halted on the way up, we always say this, when it gets halted on the way down, the gap down after that reopen is a lot bigger. You could see here, I mean, it got halted on the way down, the big gap here afterwards, and it ended up just tanking from that point, right? So yeah, the OXBR trade we're going to pass on for right now. Now, really quick, just anytime I see someone make a post with an exclamation point or something like that, I'll take a quick look. I need some water, but I got RJF here on YouTube saying SAVA right now, SAVA. Little emphatic there, perhaps, about the call. It's up a little bit, RJF. I thought it was going to be a much sharper breakout pop news-wise. I mean, this is the type of stock that's made that type of move in the past, but yeah, I'll come back to this if anything. We'll just keep going down from top to bottom, though, seeing what else is out there. This AMBO ended up getting halted as soon as the market opened up on the way down, and then it actually reopened up much later on in the morning. I didn't see this here. Opened up a lot higher, but then dumped back down right away from that point, too. So this thing's been around the block as well. For right now, though, it kind of seems like it's basing around 325, 330-ish. And then for the pushback over 350, perhaps, seems interesting. Maybe I'll come back to this here as well. What is this? AMBO. All right. PRCP is a buyout, I think. Yeah, definitely. Peck, pop, drop right back down, guys. Be careful on this trade, like I was saying. I still will put this on our list, but some nasty shakes to it. WWR, this was one that we've been calling out. I mean, from the pre-market here, I hopped in the trading room at 7:30. I knew Fausto was out for the day. So I ended up just building up the list right away. This was one of the first stocks I had in mind. So, this ended up making a nice squeeze up, at least in pre-market, and then from that point dumped off. So, interesting to see this make a nice afternoon run right now, or at least just before, dump back down from that point. But yeah, again, another one I'll kind of keep on the back burner. Maybe I'll jump to this at the very end if it ends up making another push or more volume comes in on this trade. This AHT was also a good call out that we had from our trading room going into the early afternoon. So, it was creeping up to 2. I wouldn't have expected it to make this squeeze, but ended up making the break over 2, and as you can see, ran up towards almost 3. 288 high of the day. It's back over 2 right now. That does pique my interest. It also is shortable, so if it ends up coming back down like it did before here, this could have been a really good opportunity if we were able to catch it at the right time. But perhaps there could be more to come. Just for right now, it's over 2. So so long as it's over this level, I would expect maybe another little miniature move up. I like this trade so far, HT. All right. Fly, FLY near the high of the day. That kind of rhymed, up 24%. Not a whole lot going on, though, aside from that, right? So just because it's making this pattern doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put it on the list. So let's see if there's anything looking better. I like the ones that we have on the side list a lot more than this one, at least. I saw T-Con get called out earlier. Nah, not much going on there. Rig, RIG, Cheapy. It's up a little bit. WKHS, hopefully this could make a nice push up higher into the close. So yeah, definitely we're going to add this to our list right away. I want to copy and paste the news for all of us here, though, in the meantime. So, we're not going to talk politics, but anytime you hear the president involved, you figure it's going to make some sort of move up or down in the case of WKHS. Well, obviously a big pop. So I think the news out on this was that I think President Trump was already on the South Lawn. There was some tweet that came out from a CNBC reporter regarding Lordstown Motors 2021 Endurance truck. So WKHS and EV stock, it might be their truck in particular. They might have a big affiliation just with the company that's manufacturing it. But either way, ended up making a huge breakout at the time the news came out from 26 up towards just over 28, holding strong near the highs right now going into the close. So yeah, this trade definitely going to put on our list near the top. All right, let's hop over to the losers list right now, see if there's anything looking good, if not better. So this ABEO trade, really quick, guys, actually, for all of us on social media, if you guys tend to follow the morning and then the afternoon meetings and rejoining me here, I ended up covering for Fausto earlier on this morning. He's out for the day. He'll be back tomorrow. But, as soon as I finished up the meeting, I closed out the stream. And then I saw that this ABEO, it was halted off of news pending. They said that they were going to resume trading time at 10 o'clock. So as soon as I finished up the live stream, I ended up jumping back in the trading room and I explained to all of us here live saying, well, hey, we're going to put this on our list. I have no idea what's going to happen. When it reopens up, we'll call it out, see where it goes. First and foremost, this stock is shortable. Obviously a lot of these stocks are, pretty cheap. They're hard to borrow otherwise, but this one is easy to borrow. You don't need to worry about getting shares to short. So as soon as this opened up, it was a complete free fall. It seems easy to say, but this is the opportunity that we, really scan for and look for here. So, whether it's a breakout or a breakdown, we try and trade the volatility that trades off the news. So here we end up seeing this reopen up around 142, drop like a rock. Really good short opportunity. I'm sure at some point this will make a nice little squeeze back up, but yeah, for right now, the close, it's looking too flat, but interesting trade. I wanted to mention that for all of us here on social media. You guys missed out on that by maybe a minute. All right. You didn't miss out on the INO. We covered that already. I could slap this on the list at the end if I really want to, but I think for right now, its bigger move is already done, like a lot of these. But yeah, I mean, we'll check back in at least on Sorrento, AMBO, and the other one, I think it was like WWR. EIGR, interesting here. I think I'm getting this confused with another cheapie that looks similar, EIGI, right? Yeah, this was the one that popped. I may have skipped over this, perhaps. This one ended up making a nice pop going into the mid-afternoon. Pop from 5 up towards 6, moved up to 650. Just really flat. The volume died off. EIGR, pretty close in name. This one's near the lows of the day. That piques my interest at least a bit. Also shortable. Volume pretty lackluster up until this break here. So for right now, not really doing it for me. VIPS, VIPS shortable down 6.5%. Pretty flat too. All right, guys, I'll tell you, I mean, we don't really find as much on the losers list going into the afternoons, but we have a good list altogether for right now. So Sun W, I see Norman writing, it's on the move, he's saying. Let's take a look at that. So already on the list, but of course we were talking about the impending testing of 3 resistance here. So perhaps it'll make the first pop, or perhaps the first time it breaks over 3, it'll pull back down under it very quickly. Be careful of that pop and drop type move. Still, it's worthy of setting up the order, but if you happen to see it pop over 3, drop back down under it right away after, I would suggest getting out and probably setting up a new order instantly after, just in case. All right. From Peter, he's saying, please put the list on Twitter. We usually do, Peter. If we didn't from this morning, then I'll make sure that our IT folk do so. But we always tend to put our morning and afternoon lists on our Twitter page. It should be right on twitter.com/cybertradingu. All right, there's the pop and drop, right? We were talking about that. Let's see if this has enough juice to break higher here, but not the best sign at first, right? So, perhaps this will shake back down a little bit, then make the big push up. There we go. There's a 38,000 share order that just popped up. Told you. It's going to pull back. And then from that point, perhaps later on going into the final 30 minutes of the day, we'll look to see this break higher. All right, guys. All right, for anybody tuning in on social media, if you'd like to at least see more call outs like that, the pop and drops and all of that in between, we look to do that live inside our trading room. So for right now, we're going to post and tweet the picks. We'll make sure that's on Twitter there, Peter. Sorry about that. But we'll look to post the picks. I'll hop back on the mic in the next 15 or 20 or so minutes. And then from there, we'll see if stocks like Sun W or the AHT trade or WKHS or a couple of these others end up making the big break into the final 30 minutes here. All right, folks. I guess really quick, super quick. We'll check in on the Sorrento trade. Not really going much of anywhere. AMBO pulled back down. I'm going to scratch that. And then WWR, yeah, same. All right, guys. So those will kind of keep on the side. For right now, we have a pretty good list. Hey, I'll take it. It's not too big. So for right now, we'll see if there's anything else out there. We'll scan the markets going into the final hour of the day, and we'll work together. All right, guys. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.